Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robin Hackett. I'll be your music this evening. This is the moment, this is the hour, time to put everything on the line. And I am the answer, I am the reason, I'm a believer, it's all inside of me. And I will not be broken by some fear, and I will not stand still again, and I won't fall apart like all those times before, 'cause I won't take it anymore, 'cause this is a revolution. I am a changer, I am the master of all I see, and I'm the beloved, I am a lover, I am the spirit inside of you and me, and I will not be broken by some fear, and I will not stand still again, no, and I won't fall apart like all those times before, 'cause I won't take it anymore. No, 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 no. No, no, no. I will no longer compromise my life. I will no longer waste so much time, 'cause I know this is a revolution, and you are a changer, you are the master of all use, and this is your moment, this is your moment, time to put everything on the line. Whoa, whoa, and this is your moment, this is your moment, time to put everything on the line. And this is your moment, this is your moment, this is your moment.
Are you kidding me with that or what? Come on. I heard Robin play as a guest musician when I was speaking at Unity on the Avenue in Denver, and I was like, please come perform for us. We need your voice and your energy here. And give her another round of applause. I mean, when you hear something like that. And another one. No, I'm just kidding. We'll just keep it going all night. Okay. All right. So, in Unity, we put a lot of emphasis on the truth that we have power. Is everyone familiar with that? Something you've heard before here? We have power. But we also recognize the fact that so many of us have either ignored or forgotten or unconsciously given that power away. We ignore our power by continually being distracted by those things that usurp our power. And we forget our power by way of using it less and less. And we unconsciously give our power away by believing that others have more power than we do. We unconsciously give our power away also by blaming others for the unwanted circumstances and feelings that we are having in our lives. So if we blame someone else, we have given them our power. We have unconsciously given our power away. We literally put more time and effort into eradicating our own power than we do into acknowledging it and learning how to use it. Did you ever think about that? We spend most of our days trying to get rid of our power than we do trying to understand how to use it. So, we've said power, but what is power? Does anyone care to share some word association that comes to mind when you hear the word power? Forces? Authority? Strength, control? Dominance? How about energy? How about flow? Capability? How about alignment? So, last week, we actually we barely touched our toes into the waters of the 12 powers of man, because we didn't have much time to go in each one, but we did dip our toes into it a little bit, which looks like this: the different power centers that we have in our body that were discovered and sort of put forth by our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. 12 abilities that, when untrained or unattended to, express as a lower form that diminishes our experience of life. So when we don't know what to do with these powers, or we're unaware of these powers, that can actually diminish our experience of life. But these 12 abilities are not there to be a hindrance in our lives, not to be a hindrance in our experience. They just can be if we have no idea that they are there, and no idea what they are, and no idea how to use them. So they just sit there as a potential, and unused, unacknowledged, they can hinder us. But when we understand them and we use them, they can benefit us. Sort of like a defibrillator. It's a big jump there, but I'm going to help us get there. You're like, 12 powers, defibrillator? Sure, that makes sense. With understanding and training, this tool can start a heart that has stopped. It can bring back life. But in the hands of someone without training or understanding, it could accidentally stop a heart that was already beating. It can jumpstart a life, or it can end life based on the ability and the awareness of the person operating it. You following me? And that really underpins the totality of the human condition, if you will. For those that are unaware of or out of practice with the tools we have all been given, then these tools can be harmful or even dangerous. Now, that's something that I point out that you don't necessarily hear a lot of other ministers or spiritual leaders talking about. The spiritual path, when we go at it without awareness, without guidance, without a flow, without a direction, it can actually be a hindrance to what we're trying to do. And I'll give you an example. If you think because you've meditated a few times, you can now levitate, that could be dangerous, right? So that's an extreme example, but an example nonetheless. All right, so let me give you a more direct example of this. Fear. Fear is actually an incredibly useful and wonderful tool. How many times have you heard that? Not so often. But fear is one of the most noticeable forms of intuition that we have, if you think about it. Even the most spiritually immature of us are able to recognize fear building in their awareness and in their body, which is a form of intuition. But we don't know how to use fear. So we overindulge in it, we vilify it, and we get consumed by it in different phases of our lives. But fear, in its most raw and unaltered form, is simply an intuitive sense that something isn't right. It's just an intuitive sense that something isn't right or something has gone off course or out of alignment with flow. And that is an incredibly useful tool as we try to navigate the waters of this incredibly versatile life that we are living. It is just like the defibrillator in the sense that it is powerful enough to stop a heart. Fear can stop a heart, but it is also powerful enough to save a life if used properly. So I want to set up this next video I'm going to show you. Just try to find the pedestrian in the video and watch the pedestrian. It'll happen a couple of times. If you miss it the first time, you'll catch it the next time. Fear in that scenario was a very useful tool. Would you agree? Those couple little ballet steps that individual took to get into the right spots, those two vehicles split right around them, saved that person's life. So fear in that sense was very useful. It was powerful, it was useful, and it was necessary in that moment. But for most of us, the tool of fear has become dangerous because we don't know what it really is, and we never really learned how to properly use it or to recognize it or channel it. So in Unity, we present a lot of possibilities for ways to heal your life, to grow and expand. Tools to use along with guidance for how to use them. But like a defibrillator or fear, the tool is only as useful as the ability of the person who is behind it. You following me? Unity can put forth a tool, but it's only as useful as the ability of the person that is behind it. If we don't practice what is taught in Unity, then the Unity teachings become nothing but irrational conjecture. If we don't practice what is taught in Unity, what I and Santisha and Jack and any other Unity minister are doing up here is just spewing irrational conjecture. And I recently heard about someone who attended a Unity class and was not wowed by the experience of the class itself. And these are the words that came up. It was basically stuff they had heard all before. And I've heard this actually a lot of times throughout my career as a Unity minister. Someone says, you know, I went to that class that was offered, and it was basically all stuff I've heard before. I went to that seminar, it was basically all stuff I've heard before. I went to that retreat, it was basically all stuff I've heard before. Let me just share a little insight with you. At this point in my life, I've been in Unity since I was born. There's almost never a time I'm exposed to a spiritual concept that I have not heard before. Very rarely is there ever an occurrence that I hear a spiritual concept I have not been exposed to before. But if I am doing my spiritual work and my spiritual practice, then I am never the same person with the same perspective as I was the last time I came across it. You following me? If the same spiritual concept doesn't hit me in a deeper and new way, then I am not growing. The thought that I already get it is one of the most destructive thoughts on the spiritual path. And we hear it all the time. People that think they already get it, they've already heard it, they've already been there, they've already done that, they've already covered this, they've already tried meditation. So let me share with you a very simple truth that you can live by. This is a truth I first heard put this way from a Unity minister by the name of Rev. Joanne Landreth. And it's this: it works if you work it. It works if you work it. What we teach in Unity will and does work if, only, and when you truly work it. So now, here is a Unity tool passed down to us from our Unity co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, in Statement of Faith number 13. And they said, "We believe that the prayer of faith will save the sick, resurrect the body from trespasses and sins," and they put that in quotes, "and finally overcome the last enemy, death." Before we get to the prayer of faith, can you imagine anything powerful enough to save the sick, resurrect the body, and overcome death? That must be something pretty important. If nothing else, the takeaway from this statement after we've read it has to be that we know the Fillmores really believed in this prayer. We have to assume that they really believed in this prayer if they put forth a statement that strong. Not just in a way that says, yep, we're pretty sure this thing could work. No. Their statement here clearly... Oh, some of you are a little slow to the... Does anyone want to catch up here? Just make sure. Stuff could be happening anywhere, anytime. I'm not going to point to it. You just got to be... It's multimedia. Anywhere, anytime. No, their statement says, we know this thing works and will work for you. They are saying, we know this thing works and will work for you. I'm sure that this statement, they didn't make this statement from a place of conjecture. They weren't sitting there saying, you know what, we've never seen this thing work, but let's tell others it worked. That'll make us look good. But they came from a place of personal experience and observation of those in their healing practice. They watched it work. So what is the prayer of faith? Wouldn't you like to know?
It's a song I wrote while I was hanging out in Santa Fe. Suspend all disbelief and just breathe. You might be surprised when you'll see. Well, anything is possible. Everything's right here. Anything is possible. It's perfect and it's clear. You hold your destiny in your hands. If believe anything is possible, yeah. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. Oh, if you just believe and pray and receive. Just believe.
Swan dive. We thought about filling these with water someday, so maybe we need to. All right. Here it is. The prayer of faith. God is my help in every need. God does my every hunger feed. God walks beside me, guides my way through every moment of this day. I now am wise, I now am true, patient and kind and loving too. All things I am, can do, and be, through Christ the truth that is in me. God is my health, I can't be sick. God is my strength, unfailing quick. God is my all, I know no fear, since God and love and truth are here. Isn't that beautiful? Well, the prayer of faith is useless, and I can prove it. In fact, it is so useless, any one of us could easily prove it. All we have to do is put the same amount of fleeting, faithless, lackluster effort as we put into any other powerful spiritual tool that we simply let slip by. And we could prove that this is useless. And I'm saying we here because I am as frustrated with my own spiritual effort, often coming up short, as I am when I perceive others to be doing the same thing. We just don't give the time and effort that healing really deserves, that God really deserves, which is really not all that much in the grand scheme of all the things that we put our time and effort into. Well, is the prayer of faith the only or most powerful tool out there? Absolutely not. So then, is there a more powerful tool out there than this prayer? No. Absolutely not. There is no more powerful tool out there. Each tool is only as powerful as the power we put into it. Because the outcomes and experiences in our lives are in direct correlation to the power we put into them. Now, I love really dissecting the words of the Fillmores because they put so much depth into what they are saying. You pretty much have to dissect these words that they put forth in order to really understand the statements and what's going on behind them. So let's get back to the statement of faith today, number 13, and really get into this. We believe that the prayer of faith will save the sick, resurrect the body from trespasses and sins. The body is what we identify with in the limited human experience, in the illusion that we call this physical experience. It is not the soul, it is not God, it is not spirit, although all three move in, through, and as the body. But the body is not the totality of any of those. The body is a very small slice of what we are. But yet for most of us, it is as if it appears to be the totality of what we are. For most of our day, we experience life as the body. We believe in the body. We whittle our vast universal consciousness down to a consciousness associated with just the body. We take this infinitely beautiful thing and we sort of collapse it down into believing into this very finite, small, physical thing. It is called body consciousness, the consciousness associated with the body. This very limited idea of self that permeates our experiences and creates limited decisions, limited outcomes, limited relationships, limited abundance, limited joy, peace, and love. It creates limited lives. This body consciousness, in that sense, needs to go. It needs to die so that it can be resurrected, so that it can be lifted up to a higher state of consciousness. Resurrected from the things that held it captive in body consciousness. You think about this vast consciousness of which we are a part, and yet we've whittled it down to this tiny little thing inside the body, and we've trapped it there. And then we've believed that that's all there is. We've created this cell around our infinite potential and sort of just smashed it into this tiny little ball. And we said, this is consciousness. This is the totality of me. And now it is trapped there. But we need to resurrect that from the trespasses and sins of the body consciousness. And I just love the use of the word trespass as they used it there. We are letting intruders trespass into the sacred land of our own consciousness. We are letting the negative, sick, delusional thoughts of this misdirected world infiltrate our consciousness like the army of our enemy rushing onto our land. And we're letting it happen. And the sin, which was in quotes up there, the sin is that we know it. And we continue to allow it. We know what is invading our bodies and our minds and our consciousness, and we continue to allow it to do so. Those are the trespasses and sins that they spoke about, that we must stop from dragging us down in order for us to be able to eventually rise up out of it, to resurrect out of the body consciousness into a higher awareness. Eventually, we're going to have to let that body consciousness die so it can be resurrected into something higher. The prayer of faith is a tool we can use to facilitate our healing and our elevation, to keep us focused on climbing instead of falling. We spend most of our time figuring out new and exciting ways to fall, instead of investing a little bit of effort into climbing. And like many other tools out there, the prayer of faith, it is the very best tool out there. If you believe it, if you know it, and apply it as such. Otherwise, it is just as useless as any other tool you're going to be offered on the spiritual path. Without your investment of power and time and will, it is useless to you. And that is the truth as I experience it. Now we're going to go into a time of silence together, and it's going to be a little bit different today. We're actually going to be led into the silence by hearing our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, read the prayer of faith on a video. And then after that, we'll sit together a little bit in silence.
God is my help in every need. God does my every hunger feed. God walks beside me, guides my way through every moment of the day. I now am wise, I now am true, patient, kind, and loving too. All things I am, can do, and be, through Christ the truth that is in me. God is my health, I can't be sick. God is my strength unsailing quick. God is my all, I know no fear. since God and love and truth are here. Amen.
So we just let that truth settle into our consciousness as we sink down in, allowing those words to permeate every cell in our body, every aspect of our being, to the furthest reaches of the potential of our consciousness. We allow ourselves to slip deeper, releasing the perceptions and the negative input that we've received throughout the day and the week from the world, recognizing that they no longer serve us in this moment. That right now we have a right, a birthright to peace. And so we claim that right in this moment. It's amazing that all of us have found each other in this moment, that we have been blessed with the opportunity to come together, to unite in purpose, in consciousness, in direction and intention. Even just sharing these few moments together, listening and being in silence, we've shared much more than we could with words. We've shared an experience. One that we have a choice to either leave right here as we go about our night, to forget about it and go back into the distractions of the world, or an experience that we choose to allow to affect us to change. Experience that we allow to plant as a seed in the soil of our consciousness, that we now have no choice but to let grow, urging us to listen a little bit deeper, to love a little bit harder, to celebrate a little more joyfully, and to rest in more peace. We can choose to plant this seed, and we can choose to continue to water it throughout the week and to feel the essence as it begins to grow. And so we make that choice in this moment to not let this experience just pass, but to let it affect us deeply. So as we begin to go forth now from this time of silence, we hold on to this truth, this awareness that we've shared in, and we take it with us throughout the rest of this night and this week. And with gratitude, we come to completion. And so it is. When we're ready, we open our eyes, we take a breath, and we settle back into this time and space. All right. So this is the part of our time together. I'd like to remind you that Unity is built on the power of giving and serving. Everything you see here is from the power of individuals giving and serving to make this movement happen and this particular building and this particular space happen. So we have many ways to give and serve, and some of the ways, well, let's get to that. So last week we said that we would take 20% of what came in and we take it to a local nonprofit. And so Aaron and I did. We calculated it up, and 20% of what came in was $66.60, and we took it over to Harvest of Hope Pantry, which is a food pantry just a couple of blocks from here, where people down on their luck can go get food pretty much at any time. And we took them that check, and we got a little selfie with the staff while we did that. Does that feel good to you? It feels good to me. I think it's an important thing to recognize that no matter where we give, the act of giving is a flow. It should never hit a point where it just stops. It should never hit a dam. It should always be in flow. It should always be moving. So when we give here, it flows out into the staff. It flows out into the resources that we provide here. But we also want to open the doors and recognize that it's flowing to other places throughout the community. So this is a giving church, a giving center. We do give to other charities as well, and this is part of the way we're doing that. So if you think that's something worthwhile, let me know after the service, and maybe we can keep doing it. But we all have to agree to invest in that to make it happen and make it worth our while. All right. So there are the various ways to give, the digital ways to give, through text to give. We have the Easy Tithe app, and if you're watching us online, I invite you to join us in this process of giving. We do have baskets in the back, at the very back of the aisle. If you have a physical gift you'd like to leave with us, then we welcome that as well. But it's really a part of us stepping into this flow, stepping into this process of allowing abundance to move throughout the universe and not creating a dam in our purses and our wallets. We have to open up those dams. All right. We have another amazing opportunity to listen to this incredibly talented soul.
Thank you. So I love gratitude. So that's how I stay in my flow, is being grateful. So this song is about gratitude.
Today I saw the sun. I stood out in the rain and watched the eagle fly again. I heard a baby cry and walked right through a storm and felt the wind upon my face. And all the while I could not help but Yes, I am. And I'm hopeful. I am so full. And I'm thankful. I am. I am so peaceful, yeah. I am grateful. I am thankful. Oh, yes, I am. I am hopeful, yeah. I am so full, and I'm thankful. I am. Yes, I'm thankful. I am. I am so grateful, so peaceful, so hopeful, so grateful. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Oh, yes, I am. So grateful, so peaceful, so hopeful. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So thankful. Thank you. Thank you all so much.